Good morning. I'm excited to be up here again talking to you. Whenever the topic for today came up is creativity or being creative, what's the first thing that comes, what are the first few words that come to your mind when you hear somebody say you're being creative? What is it? Artist? No. Well, in my early years, I had a response like, Rosie, not me. You're being creative, not me. And then as the years progressed, being creative meant not me, but these great musicians, these great artists that paint, these great sculptors that sculpt. That was creative. And then I came into this teaching and I learned something. I learned that we're all creative. Whoa, wait, we're all creative. And not only that, the same source that gave the musician the talent to strike the chords, to sing the notes, the paint with the brush, I have that same access to that same source. So I went, wow, that's pretty cool. But I have to admit, I do have that little thing in the back going, no, you don't. But I'm working on it. I want to share a story with you today about my past, and then talk a little bit about what that means in this being creative type of world. I came down to Orange County in 1995, and I was working with an outsourcing thing with City of Irvine. I had a family of 4 kids and a wife up in Northern California, and I was coming down here Monday through Friday and then going home on the weekends, flying in and out of San Jose. And so my boss came to me my first week of being down here, and he says, okay, I got 2 things for you. I'm like, all right. He says, the first is here's a set of golf clubs. But I don't golf. He just says, humor me. The other thing is buy a Southern California Disney pass. You know, back in the day when you didn't need installment payments to get it. And so he was like, you need these 2 things. You've got 4 kids and a wife up north. You're going to go stir crazy down here Monday through Friday. Yeah, you got work to do, but you get the pass. You go in and out of Disneyland all you want, and it doesn't cost you every time you go, so you don't care if you're there for an hour or for 2 hours or whatever. And I'm going to show you the basics of hitting a golf ball, because you can go and be outside and hit a ball, and it doesn't matter what you do. It's just that you're doing something and you're out there. So I'm like, all right. So that's what I did. And I was down here for 9 months. And so for 9 months, it was Disneyland and hitting golf balls. And so then after that 9 months, I ended up moving down here. And so I moved down here, and I'm going, well, wait a minute, this golfing thing is kind of neat. But 9 months, I'd only been on the range. And that's just where you go and you hit the ball and, you know, get another ball and hit the ball, and that's what you do. And so somebody said, well, you need to go out on the course now that you're hitting the ball. And I went, well, that scares me. What does that mean? They go, oh, there's little courses around everywhere. You don't have to do anything big. You just go to the course. So I said, all right, I'm going to do that. So I went out on the courses, and then my son got involved, and then my other son got involved. And I go, I love this. Something in common with my sons, and something we enjoy, and they're stuck with me for 4 hours. That's pretty cool. You get your young adults, can you get with them for 4 hours? You know, it's like, wow, this is great. And so I started doing that, and it was real exciting, and we did more courses, and my older son lived down here, and my younger son was in Northern California, and so we got to playing, and I went, well, wait a minute, I kind of like this golf stuff. And so then I never imagined watching golf on TV, but it's on TV. And so I'm watching it, and I'm going, oh, this is pretty cool. So I started watching golf. And then my dad watches golf. And so my dad said, did you see Tiger and what he did? And I went, look at the connection. I'm connecting with my dad. This is pretty cool. So then I went, okay, well, if I'm going to get serious about this golf, and that happened to be 20 years later, if I'm going to get serious about this golf, I probably need some better gear and all that kind of stuff. And so I started getting that gear and all, and then I took some lessons. And then I started more and more lessons, and I was going to the course quite a bit, but then now I'm going to the range quite a bit to practice. And so I'm developing this talent, and all along, I am just so excited because of the love I get to share with my sons and share the experience with my dad, but also for me. I liked it. It was something pretty good. Now, was I going to be on TV anytime soon for my golfing? No, I wasn't. But what kind of process did I go through during that golfing thing I just shared with you was from 95 to today, so I don't want I can't do that math that quick. But anyway, I'm an old guy. But anyway, and so what was involved? Gene Houston's book, and you heard a little bit from Rosie today, but had a nice quote in there that I want to share with you. But like a new trail blazed through the forest, the path we choose must be traveled often before it becomes useful and familiar. Let me do that one more time. But like a new trail blazed through the forest, the path we choose must be traveled often before it becomes useful and familiar. So the useful and familiar, that's what was happening with me with my my golf experience. And so as I kept going, it got more comfortable. And then as I got more comfortable, I ventured out more. So could I have gone out on the course on my first day when my boss gave me those clubs? Could I have gone out on a course and hit the ball? What do you think? Sure, as long as I brought plenty of balls with me, because it would have been a very long day. But I progressively learned things and expanded my talent and tapped in to what was happening. But a neat thing that's going on now, and we get this out of Gene Houston's book, is there's actually 4 different areas that we're developing. And as we become aware of these 4 areas and we work to develop them, that's how we recognize our creativity and progress through more and more intention of getting better and better at what we're doing. The first one is sensory, and that's like being aware, being present. You've probably heard that a lot, be present. Well, what does that really mean? Well, it means knowing what's around you. Can you imagine me hitting that golf ball and not looking at it? Not going to happen. Can you imagine trying to navigate a golf course and ride in a golf cart? Because I don't walk that much. But can you imagine doing that with, not paying attention to what's around you? No, you have to pay attention. So in this talent, of course, I'm talking about golf, but guess what? Remember I said that you have access to every source of talent that exists in the world. So mine, I'm talking to you about golf, but for you, it could be anything. It could be knitting, it could be walking, it could be gardening, it could be whatever you're doing. But this is making a conscious effort about what's going on and the connection you're making with Spirit, so that you can get the most out of it that you can. So after sensory, we go into the next one, which is psychological. Psychological is what drives you. Was I driven before my boss gave me those golf clubs to golf? I didn't even know about golf. Those guys are boring. Don't want to, watching golf on TV is like watching grass grow. It's like, I got to get moving. I got to be doing things. But now I appreciate the talent that a golfer has when you see those guys on the TV and what they're doing and what they do with that ball. But we have access to that talent. And so what drove me wasn't being on TV. My psychological, what drove me was, number one, it was something that was good for me. I was outdoors, I was doing something physical, it was fun. And when I connected with my sons and my dad to do that, that for me was priceless. And so when we went out and golfed, there's stories of people that golf and they hit a ball and it doesn't go where they wanted to do it. They take their club and they break it over their leg and they throw it in the pond. There's people that do that because they're wanting to shoot like the guys on TV, but they're not doing the effort and the work that it takes to get there. But for me, it was being with whoever I was at. Most of the time it was with my sons, and a lot of times, other times it was my friends, but I cherished that 4 hours. It was awesome. And the fact that we were golfing, that was just kind of secondary. And then as time elapsed, I wanted to get better. And my son says, we really should get better at this if we're going to keep doing this. And so luckily he went into the used golf ball business, so that kept us in golf balls because we were losing a lot of golf balls. But we kept getting better and we kept working at it. But our experience for those 4 hours was awesome. I just golfed yesterday. And it was okay, but it was kind of warm. It was kind of hot. It's down in San Diego. But it was the experience. I mean, I walked away from that saying, oh, the friendship here is awesome. The sharing of the time was awesome. And so that's what my psychological drive is. If I happen to get better, great. At golfing, if I happen to get better, that's awesome. And I actually work at it. I have a putting green at the house, much to the chagrin of the people that live underneath me, where I, practice my putting. But the third area that Gene talks about is the mythical. Now, remember when I was talking about being creative, my first response was not me. Well, what do you feel like when you say you're mythical? Who are you talking to? Mythical is what your story is, what your life story is, where you've been, what you've done. Nobody's done that but you. Nobody. You're a legend. I would give the legend in your own mind, but that's a different story. Okay. But the mythical part is that's your story. So my story is I'm a family guy. My story is I like friendship. I like spending time with family. I like loving. I love everybody. I love all of you guys. I love coming here. Love, love, love. It just builds me up. It's very exciting. And so that's my story. So though I focus today on talking about golf because it's fun, because I like talking about it, really everything I do, I focus on love. And so that's my story. You have a story too. It's probably love. That's a safe bet since God gave us all love. That's a good one to go with. But there's a little twist that makes it unique for you. Remember, you're an individualized expression of God, so there's just a little twist. And that little twist, that's who you are. That is your story. And the last area that Gene talks about is spiritual. You're realizing that what are you tapping into? If you can tap into every talent that ever existed and ever will exist, is that in you? No. It's in the source. It's in God. And so you kind of have to open that line of communication. Because when you open that line of communication, guess what happens? You get answers. You get guidance. You get to share in those talents that are out there. and the how-tos. How to hit that driver. I haven't gotten that one yet, but I'm working on it. How to hit those golf balls. How to do whatever you're trying to do. Opening that lines of communication, that's how you get there. So what do I talk about these 4 areas, besides the fact that Jean Houston talked about them? Well, she did a whole book on them, so what's the big deal? The big deal is that as you become aware of these areas, that you work in them. A lot of us, and I have to raise my hand from many years ago, kind of skipped that last world. Spiritual. Just kind of skipped it. Oh yeah, sure. But in the last several years, as I've come into this teaching, I realized that even though it's last on the list, it's the most important on the list, is to connect with God, connect with the source. So as you do that, all things are possible. And so, Ernest Holmes, can't leave Ernest out. And as Ernest has a lot to say about creativity. And I really liked, the thing that I like about Ernest, and like when I talk on Wednesdays, it's like I research what Ernest Holmes thought and said and through his writings, and that's one of the things I bring to the Wednesday service. He's so logical. And he always says, don't believe me. Just read it. If it works for you, it works for you. And I like that. He leaves it up to me. I can make my own story. He's just giving me suggestions. So here's his suggestion about creativity. So why don't we demonstrate our deepest desires? It usually comes down to 2 things. We don't have enough faith, and or we are not clear about what we really want. I'm going to say that one again. Do you like how I say it twice? Because I like registers. So why don't we demonstrate our deepest desires? It usually comes down to 2 things. We don't have enough faith, and or we are not clear about what we really want. Can you imagine, I've shared this golf story with you, can you imagine what outcome would happen if my boss gave me those clubs and I watched the pros on TV, and then every time I hit the ball, I expected to hit it like the pros on TV? Can you imagine what that experience would be like? I would probably be breaking my clubs. But that's not where it was for me. It wasn't. Because I understood the connection. I understood what I wanted. I didn't have a label for it. I didn't know about the 4 different areas as Jean shares with us, but I'm so glad that I know that now. A lot of times we look for the cookie cutter. Give me the menu for success. Give me the menu for happiness. Well, Jean gave you the 4 areas, but it's not enough. You know why? Because it's not your story. You have to take those 4 elements into your life and make it your story. I recently heard somebody say, I'm so confused. I listen to this and I just resonate with it, and so I go believe that. And then I hear this over here, and that makes sense, and that resonates with me, so I go over there. I don't know which one to follow. I get so confused because I keep jumping around. Stop jumping around. Be your own story. Be your own life. Be your own spirit, your individualized expression of God. Doesn't that excite you to be your own? It's wide open. It's whatever you want to do. So I challenge you. I challenge you to be creative and be conscious about what you're doing. Be excited for life. Be excited for your story. And so it is.